The world's so negative today. Everybody has a criticism for everything that everybody says or does. And it's almost like it feeds people to be able to have a criticism. Like, oh, that guy said something smart, but if I can criticize it, then I'm latching onto the intelligence of his clout while making myself look equally intelligent just because I have a critique for his statement because he's not completely right and I know why he's wrong, and that makes me look smart because he has a following of smart people. And or it could be anything. Like, this celebrity is amazing, but they had some body modifications done, and that means they're fake, and that means I am even more amazing than a celebrity because I didn't have body modifications done. So I am 100% healthy, natural, grade A, all organic human, and they're full of plastic. So they didn't really make it, they're just fake, and I'm real, and that makes me better. But I'm going to use the fact that they have 10 million followers to make myself feel really good about explaining on their social media why they suck and I'm better. It's very narcissistic, and we all fall into it. Criticizing everything, complaining about everything, looking for the little things that we can critique. And critiques in and of themselves are not bad. You should have a well-developed system of beliefs of what you think is true and what you think is not true. You should regularly be questioning your beliefs and testing them to see if you need to modify them. That's what critical thinking is, and that's how we try to align ourselves with truth as much as possible. What is truth? The ultimate of what reality is, that very few of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, know 100% what is true in every specific category. The best we can do is seek and learn and enjoy the process of learning. But there's two different ways to go about it. You can look at someone and say, okay, that person is 80% I agree with and 20% I disagree, and that's fine because they're a human and they'll probably think the same thing of me. And we all get along. We all need each other. We need community. So it's okay if I disagree with them on 20% or 40% or 50%. Now, if you disagree with them on 90%, then maybe it's good to stay away from them because otherwise you're just going to be drawn to the negative, So that it's okay for them to be who they are if they're not hurting anyone, and still, we disagree on almost everything. I'll stay in my lane. They can stay in their lane. If somebody asks me their opinion, my opinion of them, I will say, well, I disagree with them, and this is why. And that's fine. Again, as long as they're not hurting somebody. We're not talking about people we see as malicious and horrible and, dictators and the people destroying society. Those people, you can have a stronger opinion about. You should have a stronger opinion about. But even those people you shouldn't be dwelling on. The majority of the time, optimism, positivity is not natural. It's not easy. We default towards negativity because it's easy. It's gravity. It's easy to go down. It's easy to fall. It's easy to sit. It's easy to lay. It's harder to stand up. It's harder to build. It's harder to be positive. But that makes you the hero because you're the rare one who will do the hard things. And the hard things are the most rewarding things. And the hard things are the only way society progresses, the only way families are built, the only way anything good happens is by doing the positive, hard things. So today, who are you? What are you doing? Are you looking at the world around you through negative lenses and everything is horrible and everything is going downhill and you're depressed and you're, or are you looking at all the positives? I am being better. I am creating better things. I am associating with people who make me better. I am helping other people be better. And when you clash with even those people you like the most, when you clash with them and you disagree with them, are you taking the positive road? The positive road says no matter how much I disagree with them, I think they're awesome. I'm going to focus on all the good things. I think highly of them. I'm not going to focus on the mistakes they've made. I'm going to focus on the possibility of what they can become. I'm going to overwhelm them with positivity. And this does not mean being a doormat. Being a doormat is lying to yourself. It's being negative and lying to yourself and using false positivity. Oh, I will let that person keep hurting me because I'm going to hope the best for them. And it's not being self-aware, but you're still being negative. You're just hiding it. Positivity is, no, I believe I'm going to have the best life ever. I believe. Positivity is so powerful that I used this trick once when I was teaching. The first 2 years of teaching, I was a strict drill sergeant. I was clamping down on all the misbehavior. I was yelling like crazy. I just got out of basic training and I was tough. I was in these inner city schools and a lot of these very undisciplined children with very dysfunctional school districts where they had no system of behavior or control in place. And the kids were running wild, knocking over things, bullying each other. It was a mess. It was terrible. No learning was getting done. And I came into these situations and installed order and discipline and functionality, and I taught the kids to be still and quiet and listen. And then once they could do that, then I taught them how to be responsible and how to be given responsibilities and how to have freedom in those responsibilities. I taught them to be kind to one another and to always look to help each other and not to look to tear each other down. But I did this with a very firm, sense of discipline, and it took a lot out of me. I went hoarse 3 times the first year from all the yelling. Because I would, have to dominate all of their loud chaos with my louder voice to reinstate order. Anyway, so one time I just got tired of all that, and another wiser, older teacher showed me how you can use psychology to control children without having to raise your voice at all. And it was fascinating. And what I basically did was I dominated the room with my presence, but it was a presence of positivity. And when all the kids came in, I just looked at them with big eyes, all wide. I stared at them until they were so trying to figure out what was going on that they just quieted down out of curiosity and a little bit of being weirded out. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay. And I spoke in a whisper tone. And the more I spoke in a whisper tone, the more their curiosity made them get really quiet because they wanted to hear me and they couldn't hear me if they were talking. And in a very quiet whisper tone, I said, we're going to have the best day ever. We're going to get along with each other. We're going to enjoy each other. We're going to be friends with everybody. And everybody was mesmerized by what's happening? Like they were in the middle of a Disney movie or something. What is this spell this teacher is casting over us? And inevitably, I had a couple kids who were so immature and behind the other kids that even this spell wasn't taking hold for them. So they were reaching over and hitting kids next to them or poking them with their foot, just trying to get attention to themselves and cause trouble because they had no ability to maintain focus. They were much more immature than the other kids, basically. And the first time I saw this happening, I didn't reprimand them. I didn't call them out. I didn't say, hey, you, stop it. I see you. I didn't do any of that. I just ignored it. And I kept talking positivity and positivity. And the more the room grew quiet, the more these immature ones were unable to get away with very much because nobody was giving them any attention, no matter what they did. And they were drawn into the spirit of everybody was paying attention to me, the teacher. But inevitably, one kid just kept reaching over and poking a little girl, with his foot to just, get, to be a troublemaker. And so the girl raised her hand and she was getting really impatient. And she finally said to me, she said, this little boy keeps hitting me. And I did something really unusual at that point because I wanted to see how far I could push this. I looked at them. I'd been watching the whole time. I knew what was happening. But I looked at them. I said, he's not hitting you. And her mouth dropped open. And the little boy turned and looked at me and his mouth dropped open what's happening? Am I getting away with this? Is this teacher going to defend me? Usually teachers yell at me. I said, no, he would never reach over and hit you. He's a good little boy. He is very well behaved. And then I looked at him and he went, me? What's happening? This teacher thinks I'm well behaved? And then suddenly he sat up straight and he looked around at the other kids and he folded his hands and he looked up at me and then he made one face at the girl ha, I'm getting away with this. But then he looked back at me and he started behaving himself. And the girl was she didn't like that because he got away with it. But I kept on with the act and I looked at her and I said, no. I said, look how good he's being. He's a good little boy. And then I said, and look at you. You're not being hit. You're fine. Everything's great. And she didn't like this, but she, eventually just she just let it go and moved on because there's so much positivity in the air and everyone was having such a good time and enjoying this moment that even she couldn't hold on to her grudge. And he didn't want to be a problem anymore. He wanted to live up to this new identity I gave him, that he's a good little boy. And the crazy thing was, I had 2 little boys like that, and both of them had been kicked out of other classes and sent to me after having all kinds of behavior problems for years, spending days and days in detention and the principal's office and all these issues and having parents called, parent-teacher meetings, all this stuff. And I never had a problem with them ever again. I mean, they would do little things like that every now and then. They would start to cause trouble. Someone would raise their hand, so-and-so, he said a curse word. No, he didn't. He would never say a curse word. He's a good boy. And not only was he proud he got away with it, but then he didn't want to prove me wrong. He wanted to live up to that image of being a good boy. So like, other than a few little instances, I really had no trouble with these two boys the rest of the school year. And they began to act like good little boys. Now, within reason, there was a few times where they did get a little out of control, and I had to very quietly, still holding on to positivity. I didn't get angry. I didn't act frustrated, but very quietly, I took them and shooed them into the timeout and said, oh, he's usually a good little boy. I don't know what's happening right now. We'll just sit him over here for a while. And he didn't like being sat by himself in isolation. So as soon as I let him back, he started being good again. But it was so much less energy on my part. It felt so good. It was actually hilarious. It was fun. I wish I could have been videotaped. But the point is, if you look at all of life like this, even when somebody who's nasty comes at you and attacks you and you turn it around and say, I like your shirt, you have really pretty eyes, or something like that on social media or in real life, positivity turns everybody around, because in reality, very few of us are evil to the core or perfectly wonderfully good to the core. We're all a weird combination of good and bad, and we're all moving in one direction or the other every day. One day we'll get discouraged and we'll start moving in a bad direction, and another day we'll feel very encouraged that day and we'll start trying to move in a better direction. Some of us will move in a good direction for several weeks, but then we'll have, like something will go wrong and we'll feel like we're falling backwards. We're all going like this. And when you're positive to someone, all you're doing is encouraging them to move in the better direction that they've been wanting to move in. You're encouraging the higher nature inside of them. You're encouraging all the good things in them to increase and push out, make no room for the bad things. So whether they are someone who is 90% wonderful and only 10% bad, or if there's somebody who's 90% awful and only 10% good, when you are positive to someone, you are reaching out to the good inside of them and encouraging that good to get better, to expand, encouraging them to focus on the best parts of themselves. And that makes them happy. That makes them like you. That makes them more have hope for themselves and for everything around them. It changes the atmosphere of the whole room. And there's really no loss. It's just that it's not intuitive. It's not natural. Naturally, you want to be negative. Naturally, it's just the slightest bit easier to be negative. But once you start practicing being positive over and over and over, and it takes a tiny bit of effort in the beginning, and it feels weird, it feels unnatural, it feels too good to be true. But if you keep practicing and practicing, you will find that it is so much easier to live that way. Because once you get used to it, you are expending far less energy to be positive, because when you're being positive, it bounces back to you and it encourages you to be a better person. When you see that person smile at you instead of be angry, that encourages you. When you see that you're having a positive effect on people, that encourages you. So it gives you energy back. So even as I shouldn't say you're expending less energy, you might be expending more, but you keep getting the energy back faster and faster. So in the end, it's a net gain of energy, whereas negativity is the opposite. It takes less energy to be negative. It's easy. But in the end, what you get back is so much pushback, people being negative back at you, people throwing insults back at you, people arguing with you. And then you get caught up in arguments and feeling awful, and that drains your energy. It drains your time. You roll your eyes. There's certain people you don't want to talk to. They annoy you. And then you sit there, then you gossip. You go to your other friend and you have to talk about how negative that person was and how you can't stand it. And you have to vent to get it out, because it's stuck in here and you want to get it out and get somebody else to understand. And that person says, oh, I can't believe it. So now they're thinking negatively and it spreads like this nice little cancer. It's cathartic. You feel a little bit of good, like eating a candy bar. It feels good in the moment to say negative things, but in the end, it gives you a stomach ache. In the end, it makes you lethargic. You don't get anything done that day. Whereas, I don't know how to say it, positivity is like eating the healthiest food, but it also tastes really good. So if there's any kind of food that is the healthiest food you can eat, but when it's prepared right, it also tastes really good, that's positivity. It feels good in the moment, and it feels good all day, and it gives you energy all day, and it makes you feel healthy all day. It might take a little bit more effort to prepare. Maybe you have to buy some extra ingredients when you make food that is both healthy and tasty. Maybe you have to spend a little bit more time cooking it or preparing it. But in the end, it makes you feel great. It tastes great. You don't regret it. And positivity is like that times a million. It's even better than food. It is the best. It is so great. And in the end, it is a version of showing love. You're giving out love to the people around you, and you get it right back. And sometimes you got to hypnotize them and act a little bit unusual, like I did in that classroom. Sometimes it doesn't come across as totally realistic or natural. It feels surreal. It feels weird. It's going to be hard at times, and that's the best. Because when you take times to become magical and insert positivity where it just is totally unexpected, where it almost feels weird, the person's like, what the heck is happening? You're going to see the biggest results in those times. You're going to see like magical things happen. It's kind of like if you believe in magic, you will see magic. If you believe that you can turn around someone's day by being uber positive, no matter how negative they are, then you will turn around someone's day. And anyone who's dead set, here's one of the other great things. Anyone who is dead set on being a bad person, the real villains of society, the real negative people, the people who really want to go around hurting others, and they have no desire to change, those people are going to steer clear of you like the plague. Your shining bright light is going to look to them like a burning fire that will burn them, and they will shriek and stay far away from you. You won't have to deal with them because they will avoid you. They'll see you coming and turn left and get way far away from you. And you might notice it or you might not, but I'm telling you, that's what'll happen. So be a little brave, be a little bold today. Step out of your comfort zone and be extra uber weirdly positive to everybody around you today. Uncomfortably positive. And watch what happens.